Hey, my first anime review. When it comes to anime, I only really like stuff that I got into as a kid, or stuff my dorky roommates made me watch in college, so I've gone my entire life constantly being told that Neon Genesis Evangelion is one of, if not the best anime of all time. I was just never able to watch it before, those DVDs are expensive, but it arrived on Netflix and I binge-watched the heck out of it. Does it live up to its reputation, or no longer hold up at all? An important thing to mention is that the Netflix version is not the same thing as the version most people have been watching since the 90s. The original English dub of the Japanese cartoon was done by ADV. Due to copyright issues, Netflix had a new English dub done with a different cast, based on a different translation of the Japanese script. Most of the differences in the translation are minor, with characters using English phrases that don't exist in Japanese but make sense in context, and things like that. There are a few important differences, however. One male character lets another male character know that he loves him romantically in the original English dub, while in the Netflix dub he just says that he likes the other guy. I don't know which translation is closer to correct, but I do know that the scene and the entire episode have completely different meanings depending on which line is spoken. Also, in the Netflix version, whenever somebody is supposed to say the word child, they say children instead. It's really weird hearing them constantly refer to an individual child as children. As far as the Netflix voices go, I never heard the ADV voices, so I wasn't distracted by the differences. The Netflix voices on their own are a mixed bag, however. It still sounds like a 90s dub, which it should, but so often I feel like English anime voice actors have speaking voices that are so clear and perfect that they no longer sound like real people or even cartoon characters. And many of the characters in this show suffer from that. The worst is the main character, Shinji. It's not the actress's fault. Casey Mangelo is a terrific voice actress, and I can never say anything bad about anyone involved in Ladybug, but this is, in my opinion, a miscast. It's of course very common for adult women to provide the voices of male characters in their childhood and teens, but Shinji just does not sound like a teenage boy here at all. Whenever he speaks, I hear an adult woman. Another change made by Netflix is to the credits sequence. While the opening titles are preserved and are freaking amazing, even by the high standards of anime openings, the credits are very different. In the ADV dub, the credits would play a song called Fly Me to the Moon, with each episode's version being slightly different than the one before it to reflect the tone of that episode. That's a really neat aspect of the show, but again, due to rights issues, Netflix just couldn't use it. I'll give them a pass on this one. I mean, you try securing the rights to 26 different versions of the same song. But rather than listen to the theme music for the character Rei during the credits of every episode on Netflix, I found a YouTube video that compiled every version of Fly Me to the Moon and just listened to the corresponding song after each episode. I included a link to the video in the description of this one if you want to do the same. But enough about the Netflix dub. How's the series? Well, the story is set in the distant future of 2015, a world where a meteor impact basically ruined everything. The city of Tokyo has been rebuilt, but on top of all the other problems the world faces, giant monsters called angels have begun to attack. High school student and friendless weenie Shinji Ikari is recruited by a secretive government agency called NERV to pilot a giant robot to fight the monsters. Yeah, it's spelled nerve, but they call it NERV for some reason. So it probably sounds like a standard giant robot story. You got a young male protagonist, a giant robot, a bunch of cool spies and scientists, and a steady stream of monsters for the hero to battle. What makes Evangelion different, at least at first, is the tone. This is not a series where piloting a giant robot is a power fantasy. It's terrifying. Shinji is practically forced to pilot it and is traumatized by the violence he has to engage in and the dangers he's put in. It doesn't help that the robot works by syncing to his thoughts, so he feels pain whenever the robot takes damage. In fact, the series as a whole starts out with the premise that it's a subversion of fantasies. Shinji lives with a beautiful older woman unrelated to him and a penguin, making his friends jealous, but she's a total slob who's horrible to live with. Later, a pretty girl his own age moves in with them, but she's mean to him. Okay, so at first the series seems like it's gonna be Watchmen for giant robots, taking something silly and childish very seriously to make it interesting. And it works, it's a great show and it's doing that. Shinji's an incredibly flawed but interesting and often sympathetic protagonist. The action is sick, the monster designs are fascinating, and the animation and music are terrific. The main cast of characters, that is to say the giant robot pilots Shinji, Asuka, and Rei, make a great trio. They each make up for each other's weaknesses. Shinji's a wimp, but he's compassionate, Asuka's bold but a jerk, and Rei is level-headed but completely emotionless. If that's all the series was, I'd give it a solid recommendation to anyone, even people who aren't fans of anime. And then episode 16 happens. If you haven't seen the show, I suggest you watch it without watching the rest of this review. If you have seen it or don't care about spoilers, keep watching this video. This show gets weird, and I mean really weird. Multiple entire episodes of characters hallucinating and talking to themselves while surreal, almost random imagery appears on screen kind of weird. Deep dives into the psyches of these characters and their hang-ups with their family, their sexuality, their fears, their desires, their motivation, and more. Imagine if Black Mirror made an episode about giant robots and then it got all BoJack Horseman-y with the feelings, and then got all Tuga and Birdie with the visuals. So the show goes from being Watchmen for giant robots to being a deeply personal and artistic character study. And if that's all the series was, I'd give it a solid recommendation to anyone, even people who aren't fans of anime. And then episode 25 happens. The show is 26 episodes long, and episodes 24 and 25 are among the most controversial endings in the history of TV. You know how some Game of Thrones fans were so unsatisfied that the anime had gone past the manga and they had to make up their own plot, so some of them started an online petition to have the show's ending remade? Well, Evangelion fans demanded that too, only they actually got what they wanted. I'll go into the complicated history of the second ending to Evangelion when I review the movie The End of Evangelion, but for now I'll just talk about the ending to the show, the original ending of Evangelion. I don't like it. At all. There had been multiple episodes that took place almost entirely in a character's mind, so it's not that weird that episodes 25 and 26 do too. What's different is that in those episodes we were taking deep dives into characters' psyches, often for the first time. In episodes 25 and 26, we're either going over the exact same aspects of Shinji's character that we did in the previous episodes, or we're going into the writer's thoughts about human nature in general, which is not nearly as interesting to me as exploring the characters. In addition, some of the abstract imagery in this case is presented in the form of different artistic mediums, that is to say sketches, uncolored artwork, and even unanimated crayon drawings of characters. While I'm sure these were all intentional artistic decisions, it comes off like they had to rush an ending after running out of 90% of the budget for the last 2 episodes. Moreover, these last 2 episodes are entirely focused on Shinji completing his character arc. Not only does he resolve his internal conflict suddenly and without reason in the very last few minutes of the final episode, but the external conflict is completely forgotten about. The world is about to end. More giant robots are on their way to kill everybody. Misato and Ritsuko, 2 of the main supporting characters, might be dead, and we don't even know for sure because we see quick shots of them in a montage of visuals that may or may not be real. The villain gets no comeuppance. What the heck is going on while Shinji's just sitting in a room thinking about why he hates himself? So yeah, I don't like the ending of the TV show. That said, I don't think the creator should have gotten death threats like he did to pressure him into making a new ending. Overall, Evangelion is a great show that becomes even better at episode 16 and falls on its face in the last 2 episodes. It's still worth the ride, so check it out on Netflix, even if fans still insist the original ADV English dub is better. Or, watch it with subtitles, whatever. Thanks for listening.